Check 1 2, check 1 2. I think we're golden here. Yes, it is true. This is a new episode of the Lone Angler podcast. All right. Where to begin? It's been a while. Before I hit record here, I didn't even look back to see when my last episode was. I believe it was 199, 198, something like that, and it was probably April, May-ish, somewhere in there. And so here we are. It's September 1st, 2023, and I'm doing another episode. Let's start this thing off with just talking about the podcast. Before I get started with that, I should probably let you know, in case you hear any weird background noises or anything like that, I am currently in the car. I am traveling on this Labor Day weekend. I'm heading over to Side Lake just to hang out with my parents and visit some relatives that are coming from out of state and all that kind of stuff. I do have my float tube with me. No fly rods. No fly rods with. The float tube in the summer pretty much lives in the trunk of my car and all the gear for it. I did bring a little 44-inch ice rod just in case I wanted to go out and do a little kicking, do a little vertical jigging, if that's the case. But no big plans. I do have the camera in tow, and we're going to talk a lot about that on this episode. I've done a little bit of fishing, but let's talk about the Lone Angler. Okay, when I started the Lone Angler 2019, I think it was something like that. Yeah, 2019 September. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, the Lone Angler's birthday is coming up. Bringing back the sips. 4 years. Be 4 years or fourth season or something like that. When I started the Lone Angler, it was because I was doing the broken line, and I've told that story before. Disbanded, whatever, skip, sat dormant for a year, but I really enjoyed the process. I started my own, had to learn everything on my own. The Lone Angler, the name in itself, with the help of a good friend of mine, kind of came up with the name together, but it suits me. Those of you that know me or know of me know that I like to, when I fish, I like to fish for everything. I'm not species favoritism or whatever you want to call it. I'm down to fish bullheads, walleyes, muskies, catfish, moon eyes, suckers, it doesn't matter. And that kind of puts me on the outskirts, which is fine. I'm totally fine with that. I with the amount of ADHD that I have, it suits my brain very well to be able to switch from fishing for crappies to fishing for lake chubs or moon eyes or suckers or whatever. And so that fits me pretty dang good. A quick side note here, I'm cruising through the Red Lake Reservation. I'm up here on Highway 1 headed towards North Home. It's been a long time since I've been down this road. It's beautiful up here. It's very, very cool. Some fall colors are starting to pop in. But anyway, back to the topic. There's that ADHD again. You'll probably get some of that throughout here. There it goes again. Okay, I'm going to just stop now. Anyway, and so the Lone Angler is very representative of who I am and what I'm about. I do a lot of things on my own. I have weird, eclectic tastes, I guess you could say, or interests. It doesn't take much for me to get interested into something. Just like, trying to figure out, seasonal movements of rock bass, I can also stop doing that for a hot minute and, I don't know, get into sculpting. or whatever. I'm all kind of all over the place. So, like I said, the name Lone Angler, it kind of is reflective. I end up doing a lot of these things on my own, by myself, and I'm okay with that. So, yeah, my last episode, with that being said, my last episode was somewhere in May or April, and my daughter comes for the summer for 6 to 8 weeks. She came this summer, and she's a little bit older now, and I asked her several times, well, a couple of times, not several, but a couple of times, if she'd be interested in doing a podcast. And she really wasn't. She said no. And I was totally fine with that. Being that she's 10 years old, almost 11, she's got her own interests and her own opinions and her own desires of what to do. And it's not, for lack of a better phrase, not easy to convince her to do something that she may or may not want to do, which is totally fine. I welcomed it. I wasn't about to force it upon her. Matter of fact, when she was here this summer, we did a little bit of fishing, we did a little bit of float tubing. We didn't do like we normally do. You know, we'd go every weekend. I think we went 3 times in the 6 weeks that she was here. We're just into different things. She's got different interests and stuff. And a bulk of our summer was spent behind the camera bodies. And that is something that has been really, really fun. We're going to get more into that in a little bit here, but back to the podcast and the lack thereof episodes. So yeah, this summer, I enjoyed my summer with Ellen. We had a great time. We did fish a little bit. Not as hardcore as before, like I was saying, but we got the tubes out and kicked, and she had a good time. But I said I was kind of into doing some other stuff, or letting her guide the summer activities more, which was really, really cool. And I think she had a really great summer, and I know I did too. And I learned a lot, and it's always exciting to see her just change things up, you know, and see where her feelings are and where her thoughts are and her interests are. It's wicked cool. It's wicked cool. A funny little story in the summertime, or when she was here this summer, I should say. I developed a little allowance program for her, and she loves to help out around the apartment or whatever. And she just is a good-hearted kid. And I thought, well, you know, it's time for her to earn some allowance and stuff. And she's doing a little bit of that down in Tennessee too. So I thought I'd carry that up, you know, for her summer stays. So I said, hey, you know, if you're interested in making a little bit of money, I've got some chores that I do, or things that I have to get done and stuff on a every other day and weekly basis. If you're interested, let me know, and I'll give you the lowdown. Giving her the option to want to do this or not. And she said, heck yeah, Dad, I like money. And I was like, oh boy, here we go. It's already begun. And so I gave her a little list, you know, cleaning out the cat's litter box, helping with dishes, folding her laundry, maybe even helping her laundry. And another option was just seeing something that needs to get done and doing it. Kind of an open-ended thing, and trying to show her, you know, the concept of initiation, instead of just waiting around being asked to do something. If you see something that needs to be done, just go ahead and do it. And she did awesome. She did awesome, and I was very generous. I like to spoil her when she comes, and it's a good thing and a bad thing. But I was paying her like $20 a week, which was fine, which was pretty cool, man. Christ, when I had an allowance, it used to take me like 2 months to get to it, $20. But those were different times. The work was harder too. Anyway, So I swing by the ATM, and I set it up too, though, so that she had every week on a certain day, the same certain day, she had a payday. And I'd pick, go to the ATM, I'd get her $20. Sometimes it wasn't always 20, sometimes it was 10 or 15, depending on what she did and how she went about doing it and all that good stuff. And this one time, it was payday. She had saved up a little bit from her previous payday. Most of her money was spent on, stickers and art supplies and stuff like that. She's really into stickers. And but this particular payday, she had something on her mind, and she didn't tell me until it was payday. So I handed her this $20 bill, and it no sooner left I got a phone call. We're gonna go like that, and I will. I'm doing this on the Rode wireless mics, and So anyway, that $20 bill no sooner left my fingers, and she said, "Dad, we got to go get boba tea and more stickers." I was like, sure. She's had this fixation on boba tea and trying it, and there happens to be a cool little like thrift store / boba tea shop like just down the block from us. So we walk down there. She gets her boba tea. She picks out an astronomical amount of these stickers that are, $2 to $4 a piece. And I'm letting her be Little Miss Independent, and I just, you go right ahead, do your thing. And she pays for her items. She's super happy. I'm pumped for her. We walk around. She enjoys her boba tea. I give it a try. Not my cup of tea. Haha. Little joke there. And we go on about our day. Had a great day. So that next morning, I think it's Saturday morning now, and usually on Saturday mornings I like to take us out for breakfast, and I always let her choose. Saturday morning comes, she wakes up, get ready for the day, and she goes, "Dad, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts for a breakfast sandwich and a coffee, a cold brew." She likes her cold brew, decaf, of course. And I said, "Sure, not a problem." And me knowing that she has like $3 left from her in her purse. So we go to Dunkin' Donuts, and I said, "Well, Ellen, are you ready?" She's like, "No, go ahead. You go first, Dad. I don't know what I want." So I ordered my usual, my sourdough breakfast sandwich, and I got myself a butter pecan frozen coffee, which is, it's a cup of sugar, but fuck it, right? It's so good. And the person at the counter says, "Will that be all?" I said, yeah, that'll be all. And Ellen taps me on the shoulder. She's like, "Dad, what about me?" I said, "Well, you have your money, right?" She's like, "Yeah, but I only have $3. I said, "Well, how are you going to get breakfast?" And she kind of was like, "Ah, shit." And I just laughed at her. I said, "Don't worry about it, honey. But just wanted to teach you a little bit about wants, needs, and budgeting. You wanted both of these things, and yeah, you kind of went overboard with the boba tea and stickers, knowing that the next day you would probably want Dunkin' Donuts. So you have to decide on which one you want more, because you only have X amount of money." And I said, "It gets worse as an adult." Especially me, fishing gear or groceries. Sometimes you got to make the right choice, and that's fishing gear. Groceries, nobody's ever starved to death in America, so that's the way I used to justify blowing paychecks on fishing gear. But anyway, it was a cute little nice lesson, and Dad hooked her up with breakfast. We had a great time. And that was just a little story from the summer, but we did spend the summer doing some photography stuff. I was able to get Ellen a little Canon point-and-shoot camera from her grandma, my mom. She had one in a drawer somewhere, and she's like, yeah, Ellen can have it. So I had it all set up for her, and she really had a good time with it. And I taught her how to take the photos off the SD card and put them on her iPad, and I got her a little card reader for her iPad, a USB-C card reader, and she picked up on that stuff really, really quick. So that was fantastic, because last December, as a treat for myself, and I've always wanted to do this, and I've always been fascinated and wanting to learn photography. So last December, I pulled the trigger and I bought myself a Sony a6000 mirrorless camera, and it's an older camera. It's used. I bought it from B&H online, and it was crazy because it was a used camera. They gave it like an 8+, which in their scoring system, some minor scuffs and scratches. Well, I get this camera, and I couldn't even find a fingerprint on it. So I was super happy with it. And it came with a lens, a 16 to 50 millimeter kit lens, just a little cheap lens, but it works pretty good. And I used that, and it didn't take me long. And I reached out to a friend of mine that does a lot of work in the fishing industry for photography and promotion and stuff like that. And I asked him, and I knew that he had a Sony a 6000 series camera. I believe it's a 6400. And I said, hey man, I just got this. What lenses would you recommend me to get for this thing? Especially, for fishing. Because I really wanted to, part of this is I really wanted to integrate better photography in my fishing. And so Jay says, hey man, you can't go wrong with a Sigma lens, a Sigma 16 millimeter. It's a nice wide lens. Now I'm like 16 millimeter. I have no idea what that means, but he just said it's a really nice wide lens. Really, really good. So my camera body was like $450, something like that, and this little lens. Then I learned real quick that the glass, as they say in the photography world, glass is not cheap. The lens was way more than the camera body by like $100 and some. And I still have that 16 millimeter lens to this day, and I love it. It's awesome. It's super wide. I understand that stuff now. And that's been the bulk of my activity now. And the lack of podcast content has been created by me learning how to operate a mirrorless camera and learning all the functions of it, so that when that moment comes on the water, I can take a substantially or somewhat good photo. I can compose it. I got everything set just how I want it to look and all that good stuff. So along with just learning the camera functionality and all of the buttons and all that kind of stuff, and lenses and apertures and all that crazy shit, there's another side to that whole thing, and that is after the picture is taken and put on the SD card. Boom. In the evenings, it's been learning how to use Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom, for editing these photos, cropping them, sizing them, color grading them, doing all that good stuff. And that's been a lot of fun, but it takes a lot of time. So as I stated before, I get this camera because I wanted to take better pictures. Now these cell phones, they do a fantastic job for, reach in your pocket, pull it out, open the app, boom, you can get a great picture. But there is stuff that you could do with a real camera that you just cannot do with a cell phone. And yeah, there's all these apps and all this kind of stuff, but cell phone camera lenses are very limited. Very limited. Most of your zooms are digital and all that kind of stuff, and And I'm not smart enough yet to get super deep in the weeds, but let's just say you could do a whole lot more with a camera. And I wanted to do that. And so knowing that I fish, a lot of low light hours, I sometimes fish at night, all that kind of stuff, a bulk of my learning throughout the winter was just doing street photography in Bemidji at night with my 16 millimeter lens. The reason I use that 16 millimeter lens is because it's got a huge aperture on it, like 1.4 or something like that. That means it lets in just a shit ton of light, and that's what you want at night. And so learning composure, or composition, I should say. Composition, is framing up the picture on your LCD screen or in the viewfinder, rule of thirds, all that kind of stuff. And I wanted, the other part of it wasn't just to capture better fishing pictures, just photography in itself. Whether I'm holding a fish or my buddy is holding a fish, or just cataloging memories and cool things, and that's what's really, really changed with me, is I take my camera with me everywhere I go. I got it sitting in the passenger seat of the car right now. I got a 55-210, another little Sony kit lens that was made for this camera, and it's decent. It's decent, but it's a little zoom, and it'll work for me. But I've got it sitting right next to me. And as I'm driving down the road here, there is a tractor out here working a field, and in my brain, I look at that and I'm like, that could be a cool picture if I did it right. And everywhere I look now, I'm kind of looking at what could make a cool picture. Over here on the other side of the road, as I'm going down the road, there's a nice one of these big old style red barns, and it's kind of framed up. It was kind of framed up in the trees, and that would be a really cool photo. At the same time, the lighting's kind of harsh right now. There's not a cloud in the sky, and we are coming up to an intersection. All right. Anyway, we're going to just continue on down the road. I also, with all that being said, I also wanted to give the gift of photography. And that's a very real thing. I heard a lot of photographers talking about that and whatnot, and it makes sense to me. Yeah, with your cell phone, you take a picture, you could text it, you post it on social media, blah, blah, blah. But it's another thing to capture a photo with a camera on an SD card. Used to be film, which I'll get into that too, because that's kind of a thing now. Taking those candid shots and editing them up, getting them to look good, and printing them off and just handing somebody a picture. It's kind of a lost thing now. Everybody just texts or airdrops or emails or sends links to Dropboxes and Google Drives and all that kind of shit. Like, yeah, here's some pictures. And there's just no... And I've observed myself, I've observed friends, I've reflected about how I go about it. And there's nothing wrong with this, but this is just one of those weird Patrick brain things that there was no care in the photo. It was just make sure it's there, boom, and then you just send it off. There's nothing tangible, and that, as I sat around and thought about this before I ordered that camera, it was like, I want to do that again. I want to actually physically hand somebody a picture. And I've done it, and it's a really cool feeling. In March, I was down in Tennessee. Ellen has a week-long spring break, and I try to go down there every March and hang out with my Tennessee family. And I brought my camera with, which the first time traveling with a mirrorless camera and all these lenses and all that kind of stuff, I was really kind of nervous about TSA and this and that, but it wasn't an issue whatsoever. But while I was down there, I did a little street photography in Springfield, Tennessee, and I took some really cute photos of Ellen and her little sister. Just as they're playing in the yard, and they posed for me and stuff like that. I didn't right away show Ellen's mom or Ellen's stepdad. I just kept them on the SD card. And I decided that when I got back, when I was looking at the photos, that I would, do some nice edits with them, maybe do a little black and white type business, and that's what I did on some. And I printed off 3 photos. I just used Walgreens, just sent them over there digitally. They turned out amazing. Then I went and I got a picture frame and a mat, and I framed up 3 pictures, 2 black and white, 1 of each girl, and then I took a picture of them together on the swing, and it was super cute. And I made that in color, and I printed off. They were all 8x10s, or 1 8x10 and then 2 square ones, 8x8 squares. And I framed them, matted them. I packaged the living shit out of them, and I shipped them down to Tennessee for Mother's Day. And I didn't say, hey, you gotta. I did say something. I said, hey, Steph, Mother's Day is coming up, and I sent you a box. But she's like, oh, really? What is it? And she's one of those type people like, I gotta know. And I was just laughing. I said, well, you'll see. It's just a little Mother's Day something that I threw together for you. She's like, well, what is it? I was like, you'll see. You'll be there in like 2 days. Calm down. So like 4 days passed by, and she texts me, and she's like, Patrick, thank you so much. These are absolutely gorgeous. I'm putting them up right away. I don't have any pictures of the girls on the walls. And I just wanted to thank you so much. This is so thoughtful. Love you. Bye. And I was like, yeah, hey, boom. That's exactly what I wanted to do for her or for anybody. Give them a cool ass picture that they're not aware of, that they're just like, damn. And not damn because, wow, I'm a great photographer. Damn, I remember that moment. That's pretty dang cool. So, yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. And she ended up calling, or I called her a few days later, and we got talking about those pictures. And she's like, she asked me, she's like, why did you want to print them off? And I said, well, I remember growing up, I'd go to grandma's house or even in my parents' house. There were pictures of us kids, or pictures of family trips and all that good stuff. And you just don't see that in houses anymore, really. Everything is all digital. There's even digital picture frames, and I'm just like, what the hell, I'm a little nostalgic, I guess you could say. And she's like, you know what? Now that I think about that, I can remember that when I was living, down in Kentucky, at my grandma's and my mom's place and stuff. Like, yeah, there was always family pictures up and moments. And she's like, that's really, really cool. You keep doing it. And I have been. And I've also noticed that with this camera, I am putting more thought into a lot of things, especially when it comes to like Instagram, Vero, and now Threads. There's just, instead of just random ass shit on my Instagram feed, there's photos that I've actually taken some care to take, put some thought behind the shutter, and I'm kind of proud of them. And the comments I've received has been pretty awesome. A lot of, I let it be known too that, hey, I'm just getting into this thing, and if anybody's got any tips, tricks, any sort of photography witchcraft out there, I'm wide open to it, man. I'm a sponge. I like to learn new things. So, and yeah, a lot of people have said, hey man, you really have got an eye for for things. So that makes me feel good. It inspires me, keeps me going. And not that long ago, I received a DM on Instagram from a company that helps people sell collector cars. And we all know in our inboxes on our social medias, there's all kinds of scam and bullshit. People, weird brands looking for ambassadors. You sign up. They're basically getting your email, and they'll give you a code. You get, a crazy amount off, but you have to spend money to get the product, and then you promote it and commission and all that other shit. Whatever. So I instantly thought right away that was what it was, because it's Exotic Car Trader or something like that. And so I didn't pay much attention to it. I got the DM like right in the middle of the workday. I glanced at it and I was like, all right, whatever. And so it was like lunchtime, and I opened up that message just curious to see what it was. And they said, hey, we have a client in Poposky, Minnesota that needs his car photographed. We really like your Instagram page, and we were wondering if you would like to help us out, and we would pay you for your time and X amount of dollars. And if this interests you, please DM or message us back. And I was like, what? Because Poposky, Minnesota isn't just something you fucking pull out of your ass to try to, whatever. It's such a weird small area in Minnesota that they had to have been, they put a lot of work into finding that if it was a scam. And that's just not how scams work, They don't want to put that kind of time into it. It isn't worth it in the end. So I messaged him quick back while I was at lunchtime at work, and I was like, hey, I'm interested, but tell me more. I'll message you when I get done with work. And right away, they boom, got back. Sounds good. Looking forward to hearing from you. Okay, not your typical scammer response. Sometimes they wouldn't respond at all, or they would just send you the same message over again. So I'm like, you know what? I think this could be legit. So I get home from work, and I just type in, hey, I'm back. What's the deal with this? And they message, yeah, kind of the same information, and flags start kind of coming up for me. But then they give me the owner of the car, his cell phone number. The guy that's messaging me on Instagram gives me his cell phone number, his name, and says, hey man, if you're more comfortable, we can move over to chat. I'm like, okay, all right, let's do it. That's fine. And I just about went to Google and just got a quick Google phone number and chat through that, but I was like, screw it. Worst case scenario, I just got to block this guy for a while, whatever. So I said, yeah, that's fine. I texted him, and he had given me his name, so I texted him his name back, or I texted him a message that said, hey, this is Patrick. Devin, nice to meet you. Tell me more about this car. And he's like, awesome, dude, no problem. And he starts sending me links to these instructions and stuff. So I was like, all right, well, I'll get, and I'm still thinking in my head, this could be a really, really good scam. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll contact the owner of this car, and I'll get right back to you. So I text the owner of the car. I'm like, hey man, I just got a message. I live downtown Bemidji. Are you in Poposky, just north of town here? And do you have this certain car? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. Did they get a hold of you? I was like, yep, they sure did. He's like, awesome. They're trying to sell my car. He gives me a lot, the same details. I'm like, all right, this is legit. This is cool. So, yeah, message back, and I say, hey man, I'm down. I'm down. I know the area where he lives. It's not that far away. I'll set up a time with him, and we'll go take pictures of this car and so on and so forth. And he's like, man, this is awesome. Thank you so much. So I had to sign up for their their creators, on their creators page part, they gave me links and passwords and all that stuff. So I also gave them the heads up, hey man, I'm not a professional, I'm just a hobbyist right now, and I've only been shooting since December. And he messaged me back, he's like, if you've only been shooting since December, this is a few months, man, you're doing great. This isn't very hard at all, and we're willing to work with you. So I was like, all right, cool. So to speed up the process here, I went up to the guy's place. We shot the car on a Sunday, and I submitted. And I get this message back, hey, thanks for going up there, but can you reshoot the car? And I was like, well, I followed the instructions, and did a little bit more. And he's like, yeah, that was just part of it. He goes, it's on me. I forgot to send you the link to the full instructions. I just given you an example. It's like, oh, and he's like, I'm so sorry. I'll pay you for that shoot. And all this. And I was like, you know what? All right, just send me the other stuff. I'll let the owner of the car know what's going on, and it shouldn't be a problem. It'd be a different story if lived like 2 hours away or some crazy shit. And he's like, oh man, thank you so much, no problem. So get a hold of the owner of the car, set up another time. We shoot at a different location. Borrowed a different lens from a relative of mine that just got into the same Sony camera series, and went up, reshot the car, and I got the full instructions. It took a little bit longer, but I ended up submitting 177 photos and one video, or 117 photos and one video, and boom, I got paid, man. So I had my first paying photography gig, and now that I've signed up with these people, they said the manager that I had been speaking with the whole time, it said, hey man, the second one was awesome. He goes, I think you got the hang of it now, and if we get anything else, would you be interested? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. If it's not too super far away, I'd be completely down to doing this again. It's helping me. And did I get paid a lot of money? Not really. I got paid a couple $100. That it was like, yeah, a couple $100, which is fine. I mean, it's the first time in my life I ever made money from pictures that I take. So I was cool with that. As my skills get better, I'm sure I will change that up if I decide to go that route. But what a cool experience, and it's just inspired me to just keep going in the fine hobby of photography. And yeah, so fishing's taken a little bit of a back seat to this photography, but they'll come back and they'll merge back together. And I kind of needed a little break from fishing again. And that all started from, I've talked on here before about, my weight loss and going to the gym and taking better care of myself, and kind of pushing fishing off to the side to focus on that. I can multitask, but on only under certain conditions, I should say. But yeah, fishing's going to come back, and a matter of fact, I took the last 2 winters off pretty much. I only went ice fishing 8 times in the last 2 years. But now we're sitting in September, and I've started to think about ice fishing. Now, do I want winter here right now? No. Nobody does. That dumbass shit counting down the days to drill ice, whatever. Because we all know that winters in northern Minnesota they're brutal. They're tough. You just try to make the best of them. And a lot of people do that through ice fishing, but I think it's pretty rare that people actually crave it. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I know I used to kind of look forward to it, but I wouldn't say, oh my God, yes, thank God it's here, because man, it's just way harder. And not the act of fit, just putting on all the gear and freezing your ass off, and everything's frozen and shit wants to break and nothing wants to start. But I'm actually kind of looking forward to doing a little bit of that, doing a little bit more of that. And I've become comfortable with my camera gear enough that, along with my ice fishing backpack and my guide light sled and a couple of fishing rods, ice fishing rods, I'll have my camera with me too, and hopefully I can capture some cool ass shit along the way. And yeah, so it feels, I feel pretty excited about it. We'll see what happens. And I feel a little bit better about recording this right now. I always feel a little bit guilty for not putting out an episode for a long while. And it's not that I don't like doing it anymore. It's just I really wasn't doing much that I think would be of interest to you. I mean, I kind of spilled it out on this episode, but I really, like I said, it's just been photography and hanging out with my daughter and still going to the gym and that kind of stuff. And so to wrap this whole thing up, the podcast, The Lone Angler, there's a couple of things. It's a hobby, always has been a hobby of mine. Don't want to rely on it to pay bills. You know, if that happens, great. But I'm not doing the grind or the hustle. I'm too old for that shit. I have the stuff when I feel like talking and I feel like I've got something to say, or I run into somebody cool that I want to talk to and do an episode with, I will do that. I used to say shit like, you know, hey, I'm coming back strong, 2 episodes a week. And I've done that a few times, and I do that for a few weeks and it just kind of fizzles out because I've kind of run out of shit to talk about, I guess. And where I live, you know, there's just not a hotbed for, I like having guests, but I don't want to keep having the same guests. You know, I like when they return once in a while, but having the same ones over and over again, because I like to do them in person instead of over the phone. That's the thing. And it's really hard to do an episode like I'm doing right now by yourself. Yeah, I'm doing this all off the top of my head. I'm driving a car and just put my brain in drive, and here we are. This is what we're doing. And it's really hard, and I've gotten better at it. But at the end of the day, like I was saying, this podcast is a hobby. It's super fun to do, but I was kind of killing it when I'd put this extra stress on me to, I have to put out 2 episodes a week. I have to grow this thing into this monstrous thing. I don't have to do any of that shit if I don't want to. And what I was saying before about the lone angler and my ADHD and multi-species, I love them all and I fish for them all. I kind of want to, that's the other thing. That's the other part of this. That's kind of where I was stuck with the podcast, was always talking about fishing, and that's just not who I am. So, with that being said, the lone angler is still going to be the lone angler, but the content is going to be very much reflective of who I am and what I'm into at the moment or at the time. At moment, time, same thing. Will there be talk about fishing? Sure. If I got some cool fishing shit to talk about, damn right, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about photography? Sure. If I got some cool photography shit, we're going to talk about it. Movies, TV shows, life in general, outer space, Star Wars, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because I have interests in a lot of shit. A lot of shit. Could have a wood carver on here one week, and the next week I could be talking to an astrophysicist. I don't fucking know. I don't know any astrophysicists, but that would be a gnarly-ass conversation. Would I understand it? Some of it, possibly. Most of it, no. But either way, it would be cool. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the Lone Angler. I like the name. And most of the time, sorry, I was locking up. I just opened a fresh Monster. Strawberry. It's best. That Ghost Bolicious. Oh, shit. Anyway, food reviews. That could be another thing. Damn. I know, there's just so much. And I think that would help me get fired up to do more episodes and stuff like that. If I just let you know that, hey, if you're coming here for fishing content, there's a good chance it'll be here, but it might not always be here. Okay? And that's just who I am. And I think that would be fun. I understand if you were like, you know what, I came here for fishing and that's it. I understand completely, man. If you want to not follow or subscribe to the podcast anymore, totally cool with me, man. It's free. You know, I'm doing this shit for my time. That's it. And you know, I think that would be more fun for me. And if it's more fun for me, that's the more things that you guys get that are wanting to follow me and my weirdness around. Sorry, I'm burping. So that's what we're going to do with the Lone Angler. The logo's not going to change. The name's not going to change, because in everyday conversation, most of the time, fishing comes up at some point. So that's what the podcast is going to reflect upon, is my daily conversations. You know, could be talking about, unfortunately, sometimes we talk about politics, but eventually fishing trickles its way in there somehow. I don't know if it's just a slick divergence from that hot topic. You know, I don't really give a shit about politics, so I don't really talk about it. But, you know, if somebody's saying some crazy shit, I like to listen to it, make my own conclusion. And if I'm asked, only if I'm asked, what are your thoughts? Then I'll give you my thoughts. But I'll never be like, whoa, stop. Unless it's some really wild shit, man. But anyway. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about. And it felt really good to hit record, even though we're just doing this out of the studio. And I've just got a little DJI wireless microphone clipped to the old shirt. Hopefully it sounds okay. Oh shit, we're almost gonna... Oh, I almost powdered a deer. Them fuckers. Yeah, this will probably be the last time I take these back roads to the side lake. Yeah, because where I'm at is I'm between North Home and Effie, Minnesota, on Highway 1, which is... It's a great drive. It's really cool. It's no man's land. Like... I have one bar of signal right now. There will come a point where I have no bars, and it'll say no services on here, man. And so if you powder a deer way up here, you're in for a long walk, man. And there ain't a whole lot of people that live up here. So as we get more into fall, these deer will get into rut, and they'll be fucking everywhere. And it will get scary. So I'll start going through civilization, through, you know, your Grand Rapids and Nashua, Keewatin, Hibbing, Chisholm, all that shit. So, but that was exciting. I almost hit a deer, and I would have been pretty pissed off, because that would have been like number 19 in my driving career. Fucking vermin. Need more wolves. That ought to piss off a few people. They got to eat too, you know. They don't. I've never heard of wolves raiding gardens. So anyway, that's another hot topic. But yeah, I wanted to thank you for listening, and thank you for being patient. If you're still following and you've been waiting and hanging out and stuff, it's finally here. It's finally here. When the next one will come, I can tell you this right now, it won't be 4 months, okay? It won't be 4 months. This felt really good, and it's kind of got me fired back up. So with that being said, I'm going to focus on not powdering any deer with the hot rod and continue down the road on my travels. You all have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful experience outdoors, and whatever it is you're doing, enjoy it, embrace it, get into it. All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.